Hello again, it's Cons, and following on from the previous video I released regarding my Kinsect vs Rajang run, I am now going to show you the build and the testing that I did to sort of support the skills I used. Just a quick TLDR, it's mostly just a defensive set. You can skip to the timestamp being shown to see the actual build, but for now we'll get into the testing. So we're just going to get some baseline values using the Barrier Insect Glaive final upgrade. You can see we're getting 38 per attack on our Insect Glaive. Even if we apply the buffs, we get the same numbers. Same thing with white buff, same thing with orange buff. I'm just doing this so that if in the future tests I accidentally have like white buff on one of them, like there won't be any confusion as to whether or not it's made a difference to the results. So yeah, now we're going to buff our Insect Glaive and see what we get. Getting 85 per hit, and that's a constant, that'll be the same. So yeah, 38 and 85, those are the sorts of numbers we're expecting. I have now applied attack boost to this Insect Glaive to see if it scales with raw, with sort of externally upgraded raw. And it does not, still 85. I've now downgraded to a lesser Insect Glaive. It's sort of lower upgrade of the same glaive. It has the same elemental boost on the glaive though, which is kind of important. And you can see we're getting the exact same numbers. And so what this suggests is that the raw on the glaive makes no difference. I had ice attack on this glaive to sort of match it up with the previous glaive, just in case that made a difference. Even with the buff applied. Apparently I'm showing the set again. It does the same damage, so you can see it makes no difference. I've now removed ice attack from that set, so I now even have less ice. So we know it doesn't scale with raw. We can see if it scales with element, and it does not. I should just give you a warning, by the way, nothing here stacks. I'm now running max crit eye and some points of weakness exploit to get 30 affinity on top of the 40 base that I have now. So 70% affinity, just to see if the bug can crit. I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you it doesn't, but let's just check. No crit, no crit, no crit. I do this quite a few times just because even if there is 70% chance to crit, there's always a chance that you get a few no crits in a row. And so that's what I'm testing now. I'm doing it a whole bunch of times just to prove for certain that there's no crits possible. Of course, I could have just got really, really unlucky here, but I've tested this more and I can definitely confirm Kinsects do not crit. Next, we are testing with flinch free. It says it has some interaction with Insect Glaive, so I wanted to see if that increased the value. And as you can see, it's still 85 and makes no difference. Next, we're going to be testing a series of skills: Focus, Power Prolonger, Item Prolonger, and Flinch Free. We're going to be testing to see whether they affect how long the Kinsect stamina lasts and how long the Slinger ammo applied buff to the Kinsect lasts. So I'm just going to keep hitting the wall until my thing runs out and then wait for it to recharge and count all the cooldowns. I'm going to do that again with no skills attached. What we found is that in both cases, it takes 27 hits for the Kinsect stamina to run out. It takes roughly 25 seconds for the Kinsect stamina to fully recharge from that empty state. And it takes roughly 2 minutes 30 for the Kinsect Slinger ammo buff to run out, and that's in both cases. So our testing is complete, and we basically found that nothing stacks. Flinch Free didn't do anything. It's more for the defensive stuff like tremors and earplugs when you get orange buff. We found that it doesn't matter what the raw on your glaive is. You could run an old rarity glaive and it wouldn't make a difference. We found that scaling it with raw or element don't work. It can't crit. None of that stuff works. Power Prolonger. Oh, I should clarify just in case I forgot to mention. Power Prolonger does work for the triple up and for like the Kinsect buffs themselves that apply to the hunter. I was specifically testing them in terms of like the buff that gets applied to the Kinsect itself from Slinger ammo. Yeah, regular Power Prolonger does work with Insect Glaive. It even says that in the skill description itself. Sorry, I kind of just took that for granted and I forgot to explain it. But what does this mean? Well, it's a double-edged sword. It means we can't optimize our sets with like crazy DPS or anything. However, the set that I used for that Jang build, actually no, this is a better set with more defensive skills. The Jang build had a bunch of those useless skills on it, and so I've swapped them out for the proper defensive skills and made an actual set. Yeah, I have a defense-oriented set that I've been using. It's just, you can run whatever defensive set you like. I specifically have Slinger capacity because it means that I only have to tenderize the monster once, and I basically have enough Slinger ammo for like buffs for the entire hunt. I also have a point of tremors, so just so that I can't get tremored even when triple up expires by Rajang, because Rajang does like to spam that move. Kind of because I just had too many skills and I don't know. But yeah, so I have Slinger capacity, which is handy, and I have recovery up to try and improve our recovery. That's not all I do though. I'll show you about the recovery in a second. But aside from that, I'm just running things like Slugger to increase the KO damage, Divine Blessing and Defense Boost for defensive purposes. You can see I'm running 2-piece Silver Lost, 2-piece Gold Rathian for those 2 set bonuses. I'm actually running 3-piece Gold Rathian. But yeah, like some Part Breaker is nice. None of these skills are mandatory. You can run whatever skills you like. Now, the real crux of my set comes from the weapon itself. And in case you couldn't already tell, Freeze Gale, that is not a rarity 10, 11 or 12 weapon. As you can see, I'm running a rare 6 insect glaive, and the reason for this comes back to the health augment video that I did, where I sort of did testing for every single level of health augment. And remember, I found that the new health augments are slightly less powerful, which makes sense, you know, like we're doing more raw damage on our attacks, so the health regen itself needs to be decreased so that overall it ends up at the same value. Like we restore a less proportionate amount of our health, a lower proportion of it. However, because we're doing more damage, it makes up for it. So what I decided to do was go back to the old health augment, because nothing else made a difference, because the actual values on our glaive made no difference. I ran any glaive I could find with elemental boost, put 3 levels of health regen on it. I like this one because of the slots and the augment slots too. And then you take a Kinsect with as high element as possible. I picked this one, Gleam Beetle 3, because I like the fact that it reaches 20 element but also has a reasonable mixture of power and speed. The dust effect is kind of nice too. If you use that, you can get a free poison off. I also go for Blunt over Sever. Even though Sever has better element on most of its bugs, I picked Blunt because I like the chaos. So, there are 2 takeaways here. You don't really need to alter your set all that much to have good Kinsect damage. What does that mean? It means even on your DPS sets, you could easily just make sure to remember to use the Slinger buff on your Kinsect and bring a Kinsect with an appropriate element to your fight. And that's it. And you're instantly, whenever you use your pheromone attacks, you'll be doing more damage. Additionally, you could run what I did, a crazy defensive set, which basically makes you invulnerable and still kill the monsters fairly reasonably timed, with basically no effort whatsoever, because you don't need any armor skills. The only reason I'm running a defensive set is because I don't need any other skills. So yeah, it's really up to you. I hope that all made sense and I hope I didn't miss anything. Oh yes, 1 minute. So I did some testing, and the old health augment at level 3 gives you 20% lifesteal, whereas the new health augment at level 3 gives you 11.25%. So it's basically double the max health regen. However, because I also have recovery up, the reason I recover so much health on every Kinsect attack, which is kind of curious, is that with the combined effects of the old health augment at level 3 and 3 points of recovery up, we end up at 26% lifesteal. Now, if you compare that to the base health augment level 1 with no recovery up, which is what most people run, 7.5% lifesteal, you'll see that we're basically running something like 3.5 times the lifesteal of a base insect glaive with health augment level 1. That's the reason we're recovering so much per Kinsect attack. And again, because the actual stats on the glaive make no difference, there's no reason for me not to run this. So yeah, that was a decent amount of information at the end. I hope you sort of all took that all in. Hope it made sense. Let me know if I missed anything. I hope I didn't, but yeah, just comment if there's anything that's been left ambiguous. Aside from that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the build and the testing, and I hope you have a lovely day. Take it easy. Bye-bye.